We're back on King Arthur. We're going to do a legitimate tier list to show you the heroes that are really good in this game. And there's one number one hero you should re-roll for always. I don't care what anybody says. To give you an update from the company on what's going on with the game, it's in beta right now. They said they don't know if they're going to save this information to go into global. We have no idea when global is going to be. We have no idea if they do wipe, how we're going to get our money back. Is it going to be just the regular amount that we spent? Are we going to get additional credit for spending during a beta then? They haven't given us any of this information. We've been giving them a lot of feedback because what they're trying to do right now is optimize the game. Make sure the game is ready for global release. Make sure there's no kinks in it, which there have been some. That's what they're working on. That's their number one concern with the game. And if you look at my last video, there's a real concern with vigor in the game, which lets us do our abilities. Let's get into the tier list. If you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. I will gladly answer you. Lot is the first legendary on our list, and I just don't feel like he's got any ranking right now. He does Oblivion, which stops people from using their passive ability. That might be great in PvP. It doesn't seem to be good against any boss. Right now, I can't find any amazing use for him. As you can see, I've got damage numbers because you can go in, you can do test, and you can test out all the skills. And I'm pretty sure most of it, attack, HP, defense, all that kind of stuff is standardized. So we get an idea of how much damage they're doing, how many times they hit. That's how many times they hit in parentheses. That's the total damage done here. And whether it's AoE or not, I put in here, as well as healing done when you go in there and test it out. So we've got a good idea, a good metric of what their baseline damage and healing is, so we can kind of compare them. Nothing to do with what their buffs, debuffs, and what their skills actually do. So we got to take all that into consideration. But I think this is a good starting point. Claudis, I have her. She's awesome. She does AoE, good damage. She can do turn meter reduction slightly, but when she does that turn meter reduction, she can confuse someone, which can make them then attack their own allies. I'm not going to worry about anybody's S3 on a lot of these heroes, on pretty much all heroes. We don't get enough vigor in the game right now without skipping and doing manual to do their S3s. It's a big problem. They're working on it. We'll see what happens. So a lot of these, I'm just going to ignore the S3s altogether. So with this, with 3 vigor, I can get her to do a really good AoE. We can confuse and do turn meter reduction. Merlin's got an awesome actual S3, since I just said we don't really use S3s. Really good damage, freeze, can revive allies. It's pretty damn powerful, being that it can do so much. Like freeze the enemy, do good damage, revive allies, and more. I got Merlin at S-Class just for general use. PvP, going through story mode, against bosses, it's not going to really do well. Again, if you're using somebody somewhere and they're awesome, please tell us so we can update this. Gowan has a really hard-hitting S3. A lot of people say he's amazing because he hits so damn hard on that S3, which costs 5 vigor. And it is. 8,000 is crazy for an AoE ability. Look at everybody else's AoE ability. 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 1,600, 2,000. We're talking about the S3 abilities. 2,000, 2,000. We've got this guy down here doing 3,000 to 4,000. We'll talk about him later. We've got another one that can do like 13,000 when he sacrifices himself and when he charges up his third ability. Really cool stuff down there. But I don't believe that that's any reason for you to re-roll or think that you need this guy. His second is an AoE too, is S2, but if they have bleeds up, he'll do twice as damage, which would be 24 then, when I've already got our girl here doing, what was it, 23, 4 something? Whatever, I erased it. Sweet, but you can get damage elsewhere. Guinevere is the one. You can see she's SSS. There she is. She is the best because with her, you can get through so much content in the game very easily with her skill 2. Skill 2 puts up a 30% HP shield on all your allies, including herself, and it's 30% based off of her HP, so it's massive. Not only that, whenever anybody's hit with that shield on, they get increased defense, increased attack. But her shields in general are so strong. The ability still does damage. It does almost 2,000 damage right here in practice mode. Does good damage on my account. We're going to do a video on her. Don't worry, I just pulled her yesterday. Let's go, Guinevere. Lancelot looks like he could be fun. I just don't even consider him S tier. I would consider him maybe A tier. Later on, if you've got skill points put into it, he's got a really strong passive, which makes dot damage take a crazy amount additional dot damage for 3 turns, but it's on a 5-turn cooldown. Remember, these are all just their starting relics, their starting weapons. Once you change a weapon on these heroes, they get different abilities. We'll pull Guinevere over again. Guinevere, when she comes at you, starts out with her wind, her storm weapon. These are the storm weapon moves that we're talking about right now. So every single person we're talking about, all these heroes, we're talking about the weapons that you get as they come to you when you summon them. But once you get more, you'll be able to unlock their other weapons. And when you change to it, it changes their abilities. So somebody like Lancelot with a different weapon than his starting weapon could be SSS tier because their abilities get really crazy. And for the sake of this video, we're just going to talk about how the characters come to you and what their abilities are there. But currently, Lancelot, when you pull him and summon him, I just don't think he's good for any kind of content in the game for you to really aggressively level him up and use him. Tristan, oh God. You get Tristan for free. Everybody's gotten multiple copies of Tristan and they're not happy about it. I don't blame you. We've tried to give him a whole bunch of speed. We've tried to get him to do a lot of damage by me putting on protection on himself, which gives him a couple more hits, protection on the enemy, which gives him a lot more hits, but it is capped to doing it so many times per battle, like to reset his passives and do additional damage. And I just don't see this guy doing damage. I really just don't like Tristan at all. And I hope they buff him or do something with him to make him better. Bedivere, I've gotten 4 or 5 copies of this guy. Every time I get a legendary, it's this guy. He does single target damage. Look, you see no AoE here, and this single target damage right here, the third one, the S3, doesn't even do as much damage as this guy's, Gawain's S3. And he's AoE, 8,000. I don't know. Something's wrong with this guy. I don't know what it is, but he needs to be brought up. He does have a passive to where he can do an additional shot at somebody so many often turns, and he does some burns and decreased defense, but it's not enough. It's not enough for you to invest in this guy at all. Sigrun, we all get her as a 12-day login reward. I'm sure you've pulled her many other times, maybe even earlier than that, like I have. She does damage based off of defense. It's not bad. Her third ability does some pretty good AoE damage or single target damage, but she has to put a buff on herself. She has to be hit, and then it kind of goes off. Other than that, she does marking on her S1. Her basic ability does do marking for the dragon. You put up that on the dragon, and he gets blocked from getting all his buffs. Gillian, she's the fairy looking lady, really good heals, crazy heals on that second ability. She does a lot of turn meter reduction and a lot of turn meter increase for your team. So they're taking turns faster. You're slowing down the enemy. It's really strong. So I put her as S tier. This is the other eviler fae looking one. I don't know if she's evil looking. Does a whole bunch of like block buffs and debuffs. This one right here. I don't know where I would use her. I have her. I just haven't seen a place to really use her that I need to yet. So please let me know if you have any input on her in the game. Okay, let's get down into the rares, which are epics and all other games. You start with Arthur. You're going to need to level up Arthur. He's amazing. Plus, you're going to have a story quest at 10, whatever, I'm on it right now, chapter 10.3, where you have to fight Caliburn, and you can only do it with Arthur. So you need Arthur leveled up to 6-star. You need to level up his relic. I like Arthur. I think he's pretty good. He doesn't do anything crazy, but we do get his Storm Relic as well. So I didn't look over those abilities yet for this, but he's decent. So I put him as A. I think Kay is better than Arthur, but she does 5 hits on that first ability, which is good for the boar, for the barriers. She does 4 hits on the second one, plus she gets a chance to bleed on each of those hits. If you skill her out, that'll go to a 2-turn bleed. If you have Kay at a 2-turn bleed on that S2 for 3 vigor, it is strong. Very, very strong. Plus, she hits pretty much harder than everybody else up here. I like her. And she's got an AoE on that third ability if you got enough vigor to use it. I put Kay, Rouser, and Anguish all together because they're the ones that do the damage over time. The dots that we put up for Gorgos, the fire monkey, the fire ape. So we go down to her, and she is pretty good. I've got her S tier as well. She does a 30% chance or 20% chance on her basic ability to apply poisons. And then she can do it on her second ability, kind of like Kay does. But her second ability doesn't get a 2-turn. So if you put skill books into her, only her first skill will go to a 2-turn bleed. The second one and the third AoE does not go to a 2-turn bleed with her. I think that's an AoE. I need to correct that. I would use her. I use all 3 of these guys right here. They're great. Anguish is amazing. He has like a 50-60% chance on his basic ability to do the chill, which is another damage over time. He's amazing. He really is good. He does a lot of good damage. If you're lucky enough to get enough vigor to use his third ability, sure, but I just use him for his basic ability. Get up those poisons, and if you do get him scaled out, they will go for 2 turns. 2 turns on his basic and 2 turns on his S3 if you get him booked out. Uranus, this guy does damage based off of HP, max HP. His third ability gives him the ability to counterattack all the time and heal himself. He's cool. I just don't see any use for him in the game right now. If I did max him out and use him, I definitely wouldn't have enough vigor to use this third ability to get counterattack up on him and to heal him unless I was trying to solo something with him, and it would take forever to do that. Just nowhere that I've seen to use him right now. Gareth is the short-haired, silver, short-haired lady. She likes to box, does damage based off of her max HP. I don't really have a lot to say with her. She's more of a PvP character from what I've seen with blinds, stuns, freezes, whatever she does with those. Nicholas is, again, just another attack hero who just does damage, and I don't see any AoE there. Alkalon. This guy does disrupt recovery, which means blocks healing. And it's really hard to find somebody that can block heal in this game. So if you have him for a second ability, he has a 60% chance, and then it goes up to an 80 if you can get him skilled up. But at a 60% chance against the bear that we fight, that should say bear around here somewhere, the frost bear that we fight to get our material to level up our relics, we need this. You really need to stop that bear from healing. So him for the bear, absolutely. That's why I've got him at A here. Cormac, not a lot to say about this guy. Doesn't do a lot of good damage. His second ability, his S1, costs 1 vigor, does AoE, does more damage based on the number of enemies out there. Expedition, I think he's good for that. I don't think he's great. He's okay. I wouldn't put a lot of resources into him. This girl, Calorison, I don't have her. I would like to have her. I think she can do some good damage, but even with that, these numbers aren't crazy. The S1 number is nice. If she crits, she lowers her cooldowns. She can attack another person randomly once she attacks and only do it so many times. She's all right, and she can decrease defense, I think, on the S3, which we're not going to be using that because vigor is an issue. Ralph here is amazing just for his S1. Decrease defense, big decrease defense, and he keeps stacking it up. You'll see like decrease 30%, decrease 30%, decrease 25%, decrease 30%, multiples up there on the enemy with him just using his skill 1, and that's what I use him for. Again, I would use him on the bear to decrease the bear's defense. The frost bear, which is what we need to stop the frost bear from doing all of his increased defense so he's not so hard to beat. Boris and Bane, nothing fancy here. We've got AoE abilities. We've got damage based off of attack, speed, damage based off of HP. Ban. This guy, I don't know. I don't think speed is really calculated properly in the skill testing in the game. So once we get enough speed at late game and we can try these guys out, I'm sure they'll do damage, but we need something more usually than just doing damage unless it's crazy damage, right? Unless it's Gowan type, really high damage. So those two just aren't really something I would work toward because they don't help us anywhere in the game. Baldwin, he's the old man with the shield. Only thing good about him is he's got a strong passive to remove hard CCs. Abnormal status is what they're called. That's the stuns, the freeze, the stuff that makes you lose control of your character. He's got a passive ability to take that away whenever you're hit. Whenever anybody on your team's hit, it's a low chance, but it's still really good to have him in there just for that alone. Arduin, I don't know. Nothing. I don't see anything that stands out. This one is another Fae type lady with the big hammer that does damage based off of HP up. It's the only one in the game that does damage based off of HP up. And I think that just means the higher your current HP at that time, the more damage you're going to do, which is different than max HP because your max HP is always the same. She can do some decent damage, but still 1,666 AoE damage for 3 vigor is nothing compared to a lot of other people, but it's all based off of her having high HP, so she's a good bruiser. She can actually take a lot of damage, or at least have a good HP pool, and then dish out some damage, but she doesn't do anything else, so no reason to really level her up. Now, I grouped all the rare, which are epics in other games, healers together. We've got Sarah up at the top. She is definitely S tier, maybe SS tier, only because she does the highest amount of healing overall, and she removes debuffs. Like, actually really removes this debuffs. And her first ability, her S1, can block buffs on the enemy. It's a passive. It's crazy. She's got a passive to remove debuffs whenever she heals. She's got a passive to block buffs for enemies to get buffs on them on her S1. And she's doing the most healing. So this is an AoE heal for your team on her 3 vigor cost. This is an AoE for a 5 vigor cost, but you're only going to be doing her basic ability and this one, and it's good enough. That's all you need. I think all the healers in this game are good except for Turin. She's trash for the most part. But all the other healers, I use them. I love Frederick. This guy doesn't even have a heal on his basic ability, but he does heal everybody for a good amount. Plus, whoever has the lowest HP, he'll give them a double heal. So they'll get 1,162 2 times, which is pretty cool. And then he does Mark on his first ability, and I don't use his S3. But I've been using him. I mean, I've been using him. I've been using these other ones. He does transfer all debuffs to himself too, so that's pretty good. As well as this girl removes heal over time. No, she does a heal over time and then removes dots, but only dots. Whereas Sarah will give us all amazing heals and remove debuffs, which includes dots. So Sarah wins. Sarah wins hands down for just pure raw healing, as you can see with the numbers, and with being able to remove debuffs and block buffs, because only removing dots isn't that amazing. And then this heal over time. Heal over time on your allies only heals them based off of their actual max HP when you take a turn. Healing based off of their max HP like this heals our whole entire team based off of Sarah's max HP. Just like all these basic abilities do, but sometimes their S2 is a little bit different, like her. Isolde's is different. Hers does the heal over time, which isn't that great. Especially if you've got some attack classes in there with low HP, they take a turn, they just don't heal for a lot. Frederick heals everybody for a lot. I like that. Clementine does some good healing, and she does 50% chance to remove debuffs. I don't know why 50% chance to remove debuffs when this girl's just removing them all the time, but that's Clementine. Turin does the heal from the basic ability, and then she does a really big heal, or a decently big heal on one ally, the lowest ally for the S3. 5 vigor. That doesn't roll with me. 5 vigor for just like one heal? No way. Then she does buffs on the second ability, and then a heal over time for 1 turn if it's nighttime. She just isn't, she's not it. Okay, so that is all the rares in the game. These are the legendaries, these are the rares, and these are the uncommons that we'll get to. So looking at all this right now, you can see that there's really Guinevere. There's this healer right here, which is amazing. Turn meter reduction, turn meter increase for your team. We've got the 3 poisoners, which are amazing. Anguish, Rosier, and Kay. We've got Arthur, which we've got to level up and make strong anyways for later on in the game. So just keep leveling him up. And then Alkalone is only good for Disrupt Recovery on his second ability for 3 vigor for the bear. That's it. And then Ralph is good for the decreased defense on his basic ability. So that's all we're going to use him for. Keep chopping that decreased defense like crazy, stacking it up, doing insane damage once decreased defense gets fixed. Baldwin only to remove our hard CCs. Like if we get stunned, frozen, slept, all that kind of stuff, he has a chance to remove it. He's just there for that alone. And then the healers. We've got the healers down here with Sarah just being a beast. And then the rest of the healers still really good, except for this lady, which I put her as a B tier for this. Okay, that's it. I mean, all these other ones, I don't know. If you use them somewhere, please let us know down below. They had a lot of other characters in the other beta that we don't currently see right now. I remember playing the Cthulhu octopus guy. I remember playing Uther, which is Arthur's father, which does insane AoE, insane buffs. There were a whole bunch of other, like that one guy that we fight that has that demon hand. We could play him, and he was like a rare down here. There's a lot of heroes they're going to introduce into the game that we just haven't seen yet. And keep in mind, all these heroes get another weapon, like I said earlier, which changes their abilities altogether, which could make them crazy good. So we'll talk about those abilities later because we can test them in the test area. I'm not going to talk about every single uncommon. You can come in here and look at the kind of damage they do if you want to see damage. I'm only going to talk about the uncommons that I think are actually viable in this game. This guy right here is good for Dragon because he does marks. Nothing else. That's it. All these other guys, they kind of play with Lot, the legendary Lot guy, and get buffs based off a Lot, and then they can come in and attack when Lot attacks. But other than that, I don't see any of these in this big long list of actual good ones. Luke can do healing. I consider him C-class. His healing is only on his S3. This girl can do healing only on her S3, which is terrible. And then this one can do healing on its S1 and its S2, but it's only to itself, and then heal over time to your allies. So I don't really find him that good either, but I'm going to put him at B because you can just have him do his basic ability and it will heal the lowest person based off of his max HP. So that's still not bad. That's what we do with most of the healers anyways, until later on when we want to remove debuffs. We come over here to a few choice, pretty cool ones. We've got Aaron. Where's Aaron? Aaron, we've talked about him. We've done a dedicated video with this guy. Counterattack along with shared damage on a second ability, takes 3 vigor. It actually still hits for 1,455, but does 3 turns of shared damage across all your allies. Anybody single target hit, it gets spread out there. If you faced him in PvP, it's annoying as shit. So you know what I'm talking about. Come down here to this guy. This guy's kind of a creepy looking lizard dude with a boomerang circle thing. He does good damage, really good damage on this S3. It costs 5 vigor. It can ramp up. If he crits while he's doing it, he'll get 30% additional attack, which will then hit for 4,400 AoE. So you got to crit on everyone, but still 3,000 and then 4,000. I don't really consider him viable just because it takes 5 vigor to do that, and you're doing good damage, but you're doing like half of Gowan's damage. And I feel like you could just get damage elsewhere, but it's still pretty cool. But there is one down here like this guy who is the one that's like the hunchback, the little creepy dude with the nails. He can actually obliterate somebody, but he will kill himself. He's got a passive that when he's attacked, he can counterattack, do max HP damage to himself, and then attack damage to the enemy. What happens is he kills himself and he does like 13,000 damage to somebody who attacked him. Before somebody attacks him and he blows up and tries to kill someone, he can do the second ability, which hits pretty hard, 1,799 AoE, but it has a 50% chance to trigger his third ability, which hits everyone for 13,000. Or you could use his third ability for 5 vigor, and it sets himself up for in 2 turns, he will do 13,000 to everyone. But in 2 turns, likely somebody's going to attack him and kill him, and then he's going to do that counterattack thing, 70% chance to counterattack where he kills himself and then does that 13,000 only to that one person. I hope I'm making sense here. So basically, you can spend 5 vigor, 2 turns later, he'll blow up and do 13,000 to everyone. As long as he's not attacked and doesn't trigger his 70% chance to blow himself up and just kill that one person. Or you can do a second ability and pray that he triggers his third ability at a 50% chance and do this AoE damage. And then 2 turns later, he does this 13,000 AoE damage. Just go play him. Go play him in the test center. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's really wild. Okay, DJ Dejaret, we've done a video on him. We've talked about his poisons. 100% chance to apply a poison. Does no damage on that S2. 3 vigor to do it. It's really strong. If you don't have any of those poisoners that we talked about earlier up here at the top, which are K, Rouser, Anguish, you're going to have K. Use this guy with him. He's strong. Go look at my video on him. He is actually really good. I just used that second ability, apply a poison, apply a poison, apply a poison. 2 turns, no skills needed, and it is good. One last one. This is the Shark with the Horn. Great in Dragon. I've got mine up to level 50 with a level 50 relic. I'm going to take him up to 60 next so I can take out level 10 of the Dragon. I can do level 9. I can even do it on auto. It takes forever because we can't target the boss yet. They'll put that into the game, don't worry, like all games do. But I need to make him stronger so he can survive through there. He does markings on enemies. He does markings on allies. But all he has to do is his basic ability, and he can start applying markings. He's got a chance to apply that marking. So I don't have to worry about doing anything else with him. I just got to have him in there. Let me know your thoughts on the tier list. Let me know who you think is number 1. You know it's Guinevere. It's Guinevere. If you think it's anybody else, or you think anybody else is good somewhere in the game, let us know down below. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. I will see you all in the video soon.